A list of missing teenage girls released on Wednesday by Councilman Andy King is big enough for a softball team. Over a dozen girls, ranging in ages from 12 to 19, have been reported missing from the Bronx. City Councilman Andy King fears they may have been abducted and forced into prostitution. King said, "Something is going on." He added, "How do you get the numbers vanishing?" Among the missing are 12-year-old Jada Jordan, who was last seen March 21, 2016, and Miracle Man was last seen at 3:15 p.m. on June 23, 2016, leaving her residence. King said the trend is disturbing. The NYPD said it is reviewing the missing persons cases and investigating King's assertions.
Most people start their days with a clear plan of what needs to be done. Taking the kids to school, going to work, grocery shopping, socializing with friends. But for some, a routine day can quickly turn into one they'll never forget when a friend, relative, or other loved one vanishes without a trace. For many people, a day rarely goes by without seeing a missing person's face plastered on TV or the internet. Videos of journalists interviewing mourning friends and family members, huge search parties combing high and low for any clues as to the missing person's whereabouts. The reason for this is astounding. Nearly 700,000 Americans were reported missing in 2012, according to the National Crime Information Center. Of that number, almost 500,000 were under 18 years old. Such a large number of missing children is undoubtedly alarming. However, viewing this coverage a bit deeper raises this question: are the missing children shown on national news an accurate representation of the nation's missing children statistics? Think about it. The innocent, smiling faces that have mysteriously vanished who need your help in finding them. What do most of them have in common? They're white. Kaylee Anthony, Eaton Patz, Baby Lisa Irwin, Lyric Cook and Elizabeth Collins, Natalie Holloway, Elizabeth Smart. These children were once the focus of extremely well-known and endlessly talked about missing children's cases. Their faces and names have become instantly recognizable. But what about Tianda and Diamond Bradley, Yasmin Acree, Jesse Shockley, Emiliano Terry, Rillia Wilson, Felicia Barnes, and Amir Jennings? Many of these names have little to no public familiarity. This becomes even more of an issue when you learn that 40% of America's missing children, nearly 200,000 kids, are African American. Part of the reason lies where most of these cases begin, with local law enforcement, and the absence of urgency and proper protocol taken in many missing Black children's cases. Anthony Fulton, an industrial engineering student at Florida A&M University, experienced this firsthand when his first cousin, 12-year-old Jarvis Turner, vanished.
He was born in Watley, Georgia. I don't know if you know where that's at. It's around Augusta, Georgia. But yeah, he was a pretty cool kid.
In August 2000, Jarvis, an only child, was walking home from his grandmother's house in Wadley, Georgia, a small town stretching nearly 5 square miles with a little over 2,000 residents. The majority of the town is African American, but in the neighborhood where young Jarvis lived, Black people were the minority.
Wadley is just a little town, so he was a sheriff of that town.
Was it a predominantly white
Yes.
county?
Yes.
Like what would you say would be the percentage of African American and white?
I would say 60% white, 40% Black.
During his fateful walk home, Jarvis disappeared. When his family dialed 911, responding officers did close to nothing in recovery efforts. Fulton said, in retrospect, all the officers said was there wasn't any more they could do. To this day, no one had seen or heard from Jarvis. Fulton believes his family should have gotten more support from the town's police department.
He was young. He didn't know, and they say he ran away. And I think they said that because they didn't really want to look for him.
In most missing children's cases, one of the first steps towards a child's recovery is issuing an Amber Alert. According to amberalert.gov, to be issued an alert, the child must be under 18 years old and law enforcement must be sure the child was abducted. The child must also be at risk of serious bodily injury or death, and there must be sufficient descriptive information of the child and suspect, as well as the suspect's vehicle. Amber Alert systems were not yet implemented in much of the U.S. when Jarvis disappeared, but double standards in who gets issued an Amber Alert have grown rampant. In a Newburgh, New York case, a 5-year-old girl described as possibly Hispanic by law enforcement was issued an Amber Alert after schoolmates told police 2 men threw her in a trash bag and into the back of a van. None of the children knew the girl's name. There was very little descriptive information, and not a single parent reported a child missing that day. Despite this, the girl was issued an Amber Alert, which was later called off due to lack of evidence. However, in the case of 16-year-old Texas girl Alicia Moore, no Amber Alert was issued when she went missing after exiting her school bus. Her family reported her missing, but police didn't find an alert necessary because there was no evidence proving she was abducted. Moore's body was found 3 days later in a trunk about 40 miles from her home. In both these cases, the required evidence for an Amber Alert was lacking. So why was an Amber Alert, something that's been proven crucial to a child's recovery, issued for only one of the 2 girls? No law enforcement agency will admit to doing so, but racial profiling of missing African American children is indeed prevalent. This can be seen in the way missing children are labeled. It's been noted that when an African American child is reported missing, police quickly deem them runaways. When this happens, the urgency of the case is dissolved into one that receives little attention from law enforcement. The runaway label means no Amber Alert, no immediate police search, and no media coverage. Fulton doesn't believe Jarvis would have run away.
No. No, definitely not.
Ultimately, many of these children are never found. The actions of law enforcement starts a trickle-down effect with the media. If a case isn't a priority for police, it won't be with the media.
If it don't get any attention, it's going to be forgotten about eventually. And it's going to be just put off in the back as a cold case.
National media outlets such as CNN are responsible for generating news and information to the general public daily. Each of these outlets are in a race to obtain the latest and breaking news coverage. Although African Americans make up a significant chunk of the nation's missing children's population, it's rare to see one of these children being discussed at length on mainstream TV news. According to an academia.com article on missing black children in the media, these kids are underrepresented in national headlines compared to white children. There isn't a concrete reason for this, but contributing factors include racial bias and a lack of diversity in the field of journalism. In the early days of journalism, almost every news anchor and reporter was a white male. A while after, more women became integrated in the field and other ethnicities followed. Today, there is a lot more diversity in journalism than ever before. But many news agencies' decision makers, such as higher executives and media owners, represent the industry's majority Caucasian presence. Child victimization cases have proven to be ratings gold in the media, but these organizations seem to choose stories with subjects who the majority audience identify with best. Take the case of Elizabeth Smart. When Smart was abducted in Salt Lake City in June 2002, she was quickly named America's missing child due to the case's vast amount of coverage. A month earlier, 7-year-old Alexis Patterson disappeared from her school's playground. At the time, coverage of Patterson's case hadn't left her home state of Wisconsin. The constant updates of Smart's case quickly faded Patterson's chances of being recovered. Smart was found alive months later. Patterson, on the other hand, hasn't been seen or heard from since. In Jarvis's case, he was never afforded media attention, not even from local news agencies. Fulton said he also wished his family did more to help.
They could have did way more, because that's all they did.
Race isn't the only contributing factor to African American children being ignored by the media. Journalists may deem one victim as more important than the other due to their appearance and social status. Children who are viewed as attractive have a higher probability of receiving national attention than less attractive children. The same goes for children whose families are higher up on the social ladder, as opposed to those whose families may live in a poverty-stricken parts of town. Another underlying factor for the lack of media attention is the motivation for revenue. News agencies depend on large-sized audiences for profit. They broadcast the most impactful stories with subjects who are relatable to the audience. When viewers and listeners have something to identify with, there's a good chance they will revisit the organization's channel, station, or website. In any case, all missing children should be treated with equal urgency. African American children are no less important than their white counterparts. Media outlets may see a need to satisfy the attention of their predominantly white audiences, but they shouldn't ignore the nation's minorities.
It really affected me dramatically because we were very, very close. As I said, he was my first cousin, and he looked up to me. And most of the time when I ever go visit my family, I always go visit him. And we were just always around each other. Like, he was always like just right next to me, just like my little brother. That's how I saw him, as like my little brother. So when he did go missing, it's like I lost like my brother.
How did it affect your family?
Family-wise, it really affected my mom because she was there to raise him and to see him be born. And you know, that's my mom's sister's son, so they're obviously very close.
Much of the blame can be placed on insufficient law enforcement protocol and journalists who report only with the nation's majority in mind. Whether it's done purposefully or not, the issue of racial profiling in missing children's cases will not go away on its own. African American children make up a large part of the nation's missing children, and several organizations and agencies have sprouted with a mission to recover the country's African American missing population. Find Our Missing is a TV series aimed at telling the stories of missing African Americans. Each hour-long episode features 2 cases, and the person's age isn't a factor. The show provides viewers with every known fact of the case, including police evidence. They use as many details as possible with the hope that any witnesses will come forward with tips. The show also gives viewers contact information for the police handling each case. Hosted by actress A.S.A.P, Find Our Missing has helped shift the focus to missing African Americans. An organization with a similar mission is the BLACK&MISSING Foundation. This nonprofit works to bring awareness to missing African Americans as well as provides helpful resources to the missing people's families. The Black and Missing Foundation also seeks to educate the minority community on the importance of personal safety. Since its founding in 2008, the foundation has solved over 100 of its featured cases. The issue of the lack of media attention for missing African American children won't vanish overnight. Find Our Missing and the Black and Missing Foundation has attracted more attention to missing African Americans, but it's the duty of the African American community to fight the injustice of its missing children, because if African Americans won't protect their own, no one else will.